This conference will now be recorded.
So today let us go with the next part of our course. Let us discuss one important tool today, that is JUnit tool, along with mocking concept. The latest version of JUnit is 5. The latest version is 5 here. Now, so what is this unit testing? First of all, let us understand what is unit testing. Unit testing is a type of software testing where individual units of a software are being tested here. Okay, unit testing is what? It's a type of software testing where individual units means when you create a class, we go with some methods. Now, once we write the method, we want to check whether our method is performing as expected. So to do that process, we do the unit testing here. The purpose of unit testing is to validate that each unit of the software code performs as expected. So once you write a method, it is going to return some result to us. Whatever the result the method is returning, that we call actual result. Now we have to compare our actual with expected. If both are same, means our unit testing is pass. So the code is performing as expected. Now, unit testing is done during the development phase only. During the development phase only, the unit testing need to be done by the developers. Who has to do this? Developers, not by testing people. So this is taken care by the developers only. Then now how to do this unit testing in Java? This unit testing in Java is done by using a framework called as JUnit framework. We do it by using JUnit. Now, so this JUnit is free and open source unit testing framework for Java applications, and this unit testing was developed by Netpeak and Erich Kama. Now let us see the architecture of JUnit5. So when you go to this JUnit platform, so which is JUnit5, so we are having a module like vintage. So vintage is for older test cases, like if you want to go with old JUnit test like JUnit 4 version, JUnit 3 version, then it uses vintage version. Then Jupyter is for new test cases, that is JUnit5. Jupyter is for JUnit5. And if you are having any third-party test cases, it goes with the third party. So when someone asks, what is this JUnit Jupyter module, you can simply say JUnit5 version. JUnit5 even called as Jupyter here, right? Then now by using this Eclipse or IntelliJ, we can make use of this JUnit directly. You need not go with any installation to work on this JUnit. No. So in this JUnit, we go with some of the annotations. We make use of the annotations like @test annotation, @parameterized test, @value source, @CSV source, @disabled, like this. So whenever you create a class with some methods, you want to make some methods as the test case methods. So in order to mark a method as a test case method, we use the annotation @test. And to the method, if you are passing some parameters, then we make use of this parameterized test along with sub annotations, value source and CSV source. If you want to make any test case to be disabled during the testing time, we mark it as @disabled. Then that method will not be included for testing purpose. Then, in this JUnit, it goes with the assertions, JUnit assertions. Now, JUnit5 assertions are used to validate the expected output. JUnit5 assertions are used for what? To validate the expected output with the actual output of a test case. When our expected and actual output are same, then we say the test case is pass. Then assertions are static methods. Assertions are what? Static methods that we can call in a test case methods to verify the expected behavior. So whenever you go with a test case, means it's a method. Whether that method is passed or not by providing the expected behavior. Then all JUnit Jupyter assertions are present in the package org.jnit.jupyter.assertions class here, right? So assertions is a class. So when I go with assertions class, we can call the static methods directly. I'll explain more on that. Static import, we call concept called as static import. Now, so we are having the assertion methods like assert equals and assert not equals. It is used to compare your expected with actual. Then assert true and assert false. If there is a method which is returning a Boolean value, so to check whether the method is returning true or false, we make use of these methods. And if there is a method which returns null, to check that, we use the method assert null and assert not null. If there is a method which is throwing some exception, then we make use of assert throws. Now, let us go with the example application. So let us create one Maven project. I've taken a new workspace, JUnit. Create one Maven project. Say next, internal and quick start. As usual, group ID, I'll say some JUnit5 project, JUnit5 project package. Let me say com.service. Say finish. A project will get created. Now one important point. See, I've given everything. One important point. This JUnit5 supports from JRE version 1.8. From Java version 1.8, it is going to support. So that's the reason we need to change the JRE version to 1.8 in build path. How to do that change? See, we have to see here by default, whenever you create Maven project, it is going with 1.5. I want to change it to 1.8. How to change? Right click on this JRE system library, build path, configure build path. Now here, select this JRE system library 1.5, say edit. And in this execution environment, you make it 1.8. Java SE 1.8. And remember that 1.8 need to be installed on your system. Then say finish. That's it. Say apply and close. So here the version has been modified to Java SE 1.8. Because JUnit5 starts working from 1.8 onwards only. Java 8 onwards only. Now in order to work with this JUnit5, we need to add the project dependencies. So here we need to add the project dependencies in pym.xml file like JUnit Jupyter engine, JUnit Jupyter params when you want to go with parameterized test, then JUnit platform runner. These three dependencies we need to add in pym.xml file in order to work with JUnit5. See the version 5.5.2. So open this pym.xml file. In between dependencies element, you paste it. Remove this because by default your Maven goes with JUnit 3 version. So remove this and paste with our latest version. Okay. Next one. Now let us go with the application. Let us go with application. Let us create a class calculator. Under src/main/java, you can see the package com.service. Right click and say new class calculator. Now let us go with the methods. Public integer add, where we go with the two integer arguments int n1 comma integer n2, where we return the addition of these two numbers. Now let us take one more method, public integer multiply, where we go with the two integer arguments integer n1 integer n2, where we go with the product of these two numbers. Now, any code, just I'm showing how to go with JUnit test cases. So whatever the class you create with some methods, we are going to learn how to write the test code for our methods. That's the main concept here. Now how to write the test class for this calculator is, Understand carefully. We have to right click on calculator.java. See here, right click on calculator.java, new other. In this, go to Java. Under Java, you can see JUnit. If you expand this JUnit, you can find JUnit test case. Then click on next. See the class name sheet has taken, see calculator test. Whatever the class name we have taken to test, it will end with the calculator test. Now let us go with the package com.service.test here. Now see, this test class is created under which folder? See src/test/java. src/test/java. In that we are creating a package com.service.test. Then this calculator test will be created under this package. Now click on next button. Click on next button. For which methods you want to write test case? For your complete calculator class. So you can make a check mark here. For whichever the methods you want to write test case, make a check mark to that method and click on finish button. See here, it has written the code for us. So it has created a class calculator test. It has created a class calculator test. Now in that, you can see the test case methods here. Test add and test multiply. Test add and test multiply. What are the method names we have taken? For that method, it is going to create the test case methods, and all the test case methods starts with the word test here. The test case method starts with the word test, and how to mark it as a test case? By using annotation at the rate test. Right? Now write the code inside the method. Create object of calculator. Now import the package. Now the int expected, actual result. When you call the method, we get the actual result equal to calc.add pass the two values 10, 5. So when you pass 10, 5, what is your expected now? Expected result is 15, right? 10 plus 5, 15. Now we have to compare. Asset equals expected result, actual result. Asset equals expected result, actual result. Then import the package. Now see here, assert equals, it's a method. Whenever you want to call a method, we have to call the method using what? Object or class. If it is static method, we can access with class name. But when you are calling this assert equals, we are not using any object name or class name because of a feature called as static imports. So we are having a feature called as what? Static imports. See here. When you write this piece of code, import static org.jnit.jupyter.api.assertions. Assertions is a class. And we have taken the method names here. Assert equals. So when you go with the static imports here, import to static. When you go with the static import, when you go mention the class name dot star, you need not access that members with the class name. Without using class name also we can access. So that burden is reduced to the developers not to use the class name when you want to access the static members. Because of what feature? Import static. Static imports, we call the concept static imports, but when you are writing we call import static. Now similar way, come to the test multiply. Here call the method multiply. And what is your expected? 50. 10 into 5, 50. Now, once we write the test case, now we need to run our test case. How to run test case? Right click and say run as JUnit test. You can see here, run as JUnit test. If you are getting a green bar here, that indicates our test cases are passed. How many test cases we have passed? Say 2 test cases. So 2 by 2 runs 2 by 2, and do you have any errors and failures? No. So both the test cases are pass here. When all the test cases are pass, we get a green bar. In that way, once we write the code, and if you are having hundreds of methods, and if you write the test cases for your 100 methods, and once you run your test case, if you see green bar, we feel very happy. Means we will be confident that our code is working as expected. Now, if I come to our class, and here instead of multiplying, I'll go with a slash. I'm dividing. The logic is wrong. Now, if you run your test case, we get see red bar now. We get red bar and see the message. We are getting error under test multiply. We are getting error under what? Test multiply. And see the message. See what it's saying. See, expected 50, but it was 2. It will go with the message also for us. Okay. Right? So if all test cases are passed, it's going to return green bar. If any one test case is failed, it's going to return red bar. Clear all of you up to here? Any questions? No.
Sir, that static part which you explained, in that, is it necessary that method should also be static, or only the import static is sufficient?
No. Oh, method should be also, the member also should be static only. Then only it is possible.
Okay.
So the static import concept is applied only for static members. Clear? So feature got added in, I think, Java 7 or 8 version. I did not remember exactly. Maybe 7 version, I think. Okay. Java 7 version.
Okay.
No. So I've documented everything along with the code. Everything you can find in the document. Okay. Everything you can find here. Now, next, let us go with this one. Parameterize a test using value source. Now, for this, let us create a class palindrome check. Under com.service package, I'm creating a class palindrome check with the code. What you are doing in this palindrome check is, we are creating a class palindrome check with a method is palindrome, and we are passing string argument. Now, whatever the string you pass, we have to check whether it is palindrome or not. If it is palindrome, it's going to return true, else it's going to return false. So this is the logic here. So what is the logic of palindrome? We take a string reverse with empty space. Then we are going to pull out one characters here. We are using a for loop, and this for loop is mainly for what purpose? To reverse your string. What is the string we have taken? We are going to reverse this. So after completion of this for loop, we will be getting the reverse string. Now we have to compare our original string with reverse. If both are same, it's going to return true, else it's going to return false here. Now we have to write the test case for this palindrome check. How to write test cases? We have to right click on palindrome check and say new other JUnit test case. Say next. Go with the package name com.service.test, and the class name is palindrome check test here. Click on next button. For which method you want to write test case is palindrome. Make a check mark and say finish. So some code will be written for us here. Now take this piece of code directly from here. Now let me explain this code. See, here we are going with a method test is palindrome, and what you are doing, you are calling your actual, you are creating object of your class palindrome check, and we are going with a actual boolean. We are calling the method here. You are calling the method and passing your string. but I want to test whether this method is working properly or not for some strings here. I want to send some parameters to this string argument. So in that case only, we go with the annotation at the rate parameter as a test. And what values you want to pass to this parameter? How to pass? Value source. We go with annotation at the rate value source, and we are passing the strings here. The strings. What strings you are passing to this argument? These are the strings. Okay. Right. Now let me remove Java because Java is not palindrome. Let me remove Java. Now all these strings are palindromes only. Now it is going to test whether this method is working properly or not for these 4 strings. Now run this code and see you are comparing. See asset equals, sorry, asset true, actual. So we are checking whether the actual is your true or not. So to compare for boolean, we use the method asset true. Now run your test case. See it's showing see green bar. Now if I add one more string here, Java. Java is not a palindrome. Now when you run test case, it shows red bar. Right? See it's showing error under this word Java. A cross mark you can see here. Right? Now let us go with the next one. Parameters test using CSV source. Using CSV source. CSV means comma separated values. Yeah, yes, Ravi.
Sir, in this example, you passed this array of strings, but we have not iterated over it. So how is this happening?
Where I'm passing array here?
This strings. So there are multiple strings, right?
Multiple strings. That's the use of this value source, right? It will take one and puts over here because your each palindrome takes only one argument. It's not an array.
Yes. So yeah.
It's
So we
going
are
to call
not.
test case method for 5 times now.
Okay. So this
5 times
value
it is
source.
going to. Yeah,
Yeah. So this annotation is doing this basically passing that one by one and testing it, right?
right. Right. This value source is taking care of calling this method multiple times depends on the number of strings you pass over here to this strings here.
Okay.
Right? Because when you write a method, I cannot test for one argument, right? Your method should work for different inputs.
Yes. Yes. So I
Working for
was
different
confused
inputs.
on the iteration. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to take care of that part. You need not do anything. Right? Yes, Sudha?
The value source, now you are giving different parameters, before running the program you were giving all those, right? Earlier also for calculator you were hard coding and giving those values. How can we make this dynamic? That means whatever user gives, or
See, here we are writing test case. Test case means what? We have to check whether our program is, whether our method is working as expected or not. As expected. So the input need to be taken in the test case only, not dynamic code. Here when you are when you want to test this method, you create one main method and call the method, go with scanner class to take dynamic input. But
okay.
I'm writing the test case. Test case does not go with the dynamic input. I want to test with my own values here, not user input. User is not interacting here, right?
Correct. But if I want it to be changed with the other values, I have to change strings or I have to hard code in the
Right.
other
You have to hard code over here. You have to hard code here. So maximum cases, test cases, we do with the static input only.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Right. If I go with some input, I'm getting expected or not based on that. Because how can I know what input the user will enter? Then how can I know what expected I'm going to get, right? So we
Right,
check with some sample inputs, hard
so
coded inputs.
yeah, right. So here, except Java, everything is palindrome. So, but it is showing red bar because this is not passed, right?
Right, right.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Java is not palindrome, it's going to return false. So it's returning false here. But I'm comparing with asset true here. That's the problem.
But when we have number of values, like in parameters, like hundreds of values or not hundreds, more values, is there anything like these are passed and this is failed like that?
Nothing. You see, we test it for something like 5 to 6 values only. We won't go with hundreds of values. Not good. So if
Okay.
it is working, the simple blind rule is if it is working for minimum 5 parameters, then my code is correct. That's the blind rule we follow in.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the rate CSV value source, that CSV means comma separated values. For that, let us create a class even or odd. With the code. Now, what you are doing in this, you are going with a method even or odd number. Whatever the number, integer number you pass as argument, if it is divisible by 2, I'm going to return a string even. Else, I'm going to return a string odd here. I'm returning string here, even or odd. Now write the test case for this. Right click and say new other JUnit test case. Go with the package name test. Then the class name will be even or odd test. Say next. Make a check mark to this method and say finish. Now take the code. Now, see the code here. See what you are doing. We are going with the method test even or odd. Whatever the input I give, I'm expecting the string here. So if my input is even, what is my expected value? Even. If my input is odd number, the expected is odd here. So two arguments it is taking. Then how to do that? We have to go with parameters test, CSV source. The values what we pass, see here, first argument, first 10 will come to input, even will come to expected. 5 will come to input, odd will come to expected. Like that we are passing here. Okay. Now we are going with we are creating object of actual class. Then we are calling the method by passing your input. Then what are the result we get from the actual method, we store it into actual result and we are comparing your expected with actual result. So this is our input and these are my expected values. Now see, when we run, we are getting the green bar because based on the input, the output is correct. Now if I go with even, for 15, if I go with even, then when I run, I get it as failed, red color. Okay. The next one, asset throws. Asset throws. Let us go with a class string convert. Code. Now, what you are doing in this string convert is we are going with a method convert to integer. Whatever the string I pass, I want to convert into integer, should return integer value. So we are checking here if the string is null or if the string dot length is 0. So if you go with some spaces, the user may go with null or the user may not pass any string or they may go with some spaces. I am removing all that white spaces and comparing with length as 0. Then if it is null or spaces, we are going to throw an exception, new illegal argument exception, given string should not be null or empty. I'm going with an exception, illegal argument exception and going with a message. Then if it is not throwing, I'm not going to return this integer dot value of string. Now write the test case. Right click on this string convert and say new other JUnit test case. The package name. Then next, make a check mark to this, convert to integer and say finish. Now take the code and paste over here. Now see what you are doing. Now see, asset throws illegal argument exception dot class. So when you call the actual method, string convert dot convert integer, and if I pass string, since string is what null, so what it is going to return? The actual is what? Illegal argument exception. What is my expected? Illegal argument exception. So if my expected and actual are same, then the test case is what here? Pass here. The test case is pass. Now, if I go with some string like 245, can we convert 245 into integer? Yes. Then it won't throw any exception. So if it is not throwing any exception, it's going with red bar. So to check whether the method is throwing some exception properly or not, we make use of the method asset throws. Okay, we use what method? Asset throws. So during interview times, just they'll ask what is the need of going with the JUnit? Then can you take some annotations what you have used in JUnit, and what are the assertion methods? What are assertion methods? Asset equals, asset not equals, asset true, asset not true, asset null, asset not null, asset throws, like this. So just if you mention this, that's enough. Okay. Now let us go with one more important concept here, mocking. Let us go with one more important concept, mocking. So what is this mocking is? Mocking is a process used in unit testing when the unit being tested as external dependencies. You might have heard about like when you are doing your engineering or your college days or school days, whatever it may be. When you go with any public exam, we go with a mock exam, right? For practicing purpose, they conduct mock exam in our school or college. Same concept here. Same concept. That is the meaning of mock. Mock means like duplicate, not original. So what is this mocking? Is a purpose used in unit testing when the unit being tested as external dependencies. Like example, you are having a method. And in that method you are doing some database connection. After doing database connection, we get the result from database. What are the result we are getting? I want to take that result and use for some other purpose. So when I want to test the method, but I don't want to connect to database, just I want to test the method whether it is behaving as expected or not. Once you get the result from database, I want to use that result for some other processing, and whether that processing is working properly or not, but I don't want to connect to database to test the method. That process only mocking here. So that external dependency is what your database. Database operations only we call external dependencies. The purpose of mocking is to isolate. Purpose of mocking is to what? Isolate and focus on the code being tested. Okay, I want to isolate my logic and I want to focus on the code being tested, not on the behavior of external dependencies. I don't want to test whether the database logic is working properly or not. That I don't want to test. Okay, so in that case, we go with mocking. In mocking, the dependencies are replaced by closely controlled replacement objects. What are the dependencies we are having? We replace with closely controlled replacement objects that simulate the behavior of real objects. Like example, if you go with a class user service, with a property user DAO. Now here I'm having a method get user email. If I pass the ID, by using this DAO, I'm getting the email by ID. Then what are the email we get? I want to format that email. Means whatever the email I get, I want to convert into lowercase. Then we return that format email. So what is the main task of get user email? Whatever the email we get from the given ID, I want to convert into lowercase. I want to format that email. That is the main task done by this. But what it is doing, when I call this method, it is connecting to DAO, user DAO, and you are doing some database logic here. So when you call this method get email by ID, it will go to this method. Whatever the ID you give, it is doing some database logic and returning that email. So when I want to test this get user email, it will even go to this method and executes this piece of code. So this only your external dependency. This is your external dependency. Now I want to test whether this method is working properly or not without connecting to this external dependency. Just to check whether I'm getting the proper result or not, I'm able to convert into lowercase or not. That only I want to check, but I don't want to connect to external dependency. But the code is already ready to connect to external dependency. So without connecting to external dependency, I want to test my method, means we make use of mocking here. So see here, in order to test the above service class, the test case should invoke the actual DAO class and perform database operations. Now, in order to test the service class without connecting to database, we need to create a dummy mock DAO object. We have to create a mock object here. So to create mock objects, we use mocking in unit testing. We go for what? Mocking concept. And for mocking, we are having two important frameworks. One is stub-based mock framework. Example is EasyMock. And one more bytecode manipulation based mock framework, which is PowerMock. The latest one is PowerMock. People are using this PowerMock only nowadays. Because EasyMock is having some drawbacks like private methods we cannot be mocked and final methods cannot be mocked. Right? Let us go with the example application. So create a Maven project. Create a Maven project. I'm going with group ID like mocking. Mock project. Package com.mock.service. Once you create the project, then change the version to 1.8. Right click on this JARE system library, build path, configure a build path, edit this, change in execution environment 1.8. Now, the next step, add the dependencies in pym.xml file. Add the dependencies in pym.xml file. So remove this dependency and paste here. So we are adding JUnit dependency and say PowerMock. The mocking, which mocking framework you have used means you can say the answer PowerMock. Okay, PowerMock and even PowerMock API. So these three dependencies we are adding. Now, next one, let us create a package com.mock.davo under src/main/java. Create a package com.mock.davo. Under this package, you create a interface user DAO. You create one interface user DAO. Take this code, simple codes. What you are doing in this user DAO? Just you are going with the interface user DAO with the methods find name by ID. Whatever the ID you give, it's going to return the name. Find email by ID. Whatever the ID you give, it's going to return the email. Now, once we create interface, we go with the implementation class. So create the implementation class user DAO IMPL. Under com.mock.dao only, create the implementation class user DAO IMPL. Now take this code. Just we are going with simple code. How to do mocking, that is the main objective here to discuss. So just we are creating implementation class which implements user DAO, and we are calling them, when you take the method find name by ID, whatever the ID I may pass, I'm returning some string value. When you go with the method find email by ID, whatever the ID it may be, I'm returning some email, some logic here. But in reality, this will go with some database connection. Okay, the code what it holds is database connection, but I'm not doing any such type of database connection over here, because my objective is to explain about mocking. There. Now go with a service class user service under com.mock.service, create a service class. Go with this code. Now see what you are doing in this user service. I'm going with the property user DAO. To the constructor, I'm passing your user DAO as argument, setting this value. Now we are going with the method get name by user ID. Whatever the ID I may pass, by using DAO reference, I'm calling find name by ID. It will go to this implementation. This method will be invoked. Then when you go with get email by user ID, by using DAO, you are calling this method find email by ID. Okay, returning some code here. Now how to do this mocking now? So when I want to test whether this user service is working properly or not. So when you call these methods DAO.find name by ID, DAO.find email by ID, okay, so it will go to this implementation and it is going to do some database logic here, but without connecting to that external dependency. Without connecting to the external dependency, I want to test whether these methods are working properly or not. That process only mocking. So for that, you create this user service test. So here, right click on this user service.java and say new other JUnit test case. Then go with the package com.mock.service.test. Then next, for which method you want to create test case, user service, make a check mark and say finish. Take the code. See the code here. So unit service test. See the methods. Test get name by user ID, test get email by user ID, and we are marking it as a test case methods. Now understand carefully. This is the main thing. User DAO, mock DAO. Here we are doing see PowerMockito.mock user DAO.class. When you mock this user DAO.class, it's going to give a mock object to us. So when it gives the mock object, understand carefully. When it gives the mock object, when I call the methods now, PowerMockito.when mock DAO find name by ID 111, then return some name. So when you call the method now, find name by ID, this is our actual code now, find name by ID, which goes with some database logic now. It won't connect to database here. It won't to connect to database. We go with some sample data over here. For 111, if my ID is 111, your mock object is going to return the name as Raj here. So when I'm creating the mock object, for which you are creating mock object, for this user DAO. For user DAO, you are creating mock object. So by using this object, when you call the actual method, I'm going with some sample ID, I'm going with some expected value. Then when your service class invokes the actual method, it won't connect to the external dependency. It won't connect to external dependency to get the result. It's going to check the result for this value. It's going to check whether it is working properly or not for this value. Okay, so how to create mock object? These two lines are important for us. Okay, same thing we have done for this case also. Same thing. When you want to test email by ID, we are creating one mock object first, for which you are going to do mock object user DAO. How to create mock object? By using PowerMockito.mock. Then call the method PowerMockito.when. By using mock object, when you call the method, if the ID is 111, then we are going to return this email. Now, when you call the actual method using service, it won't go to this implementation method. It won't go to this methods. It will go to this methods. It will go to this method. For 111, it is going to check whether this value is returned or not, whether this email ID is returned or not. Okay, so mocking is mainly for what? To isolate behavior, to isolate the behavior of your method without connecting to external dependencies. And which framework we are going to use for mocking? PowerMockito. Remember these points, that's enough. Okay, right? Any questions, anyone? Right? So please practice this. Today's class just a one-time practice. This is mainly important for interview time. And once we enter into the projects, we will automatically use all these things. Nothing to worry too much during the project development time. You will automatically we use it. Okay. Right. So Monday, next class, we start with microservices. We'll go with microservices. Okay. Right. Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you.